I got a habit of asking psychology students what role emotions play in our psyche. A basic question about the central element of the human mind. However, the answer I get is always super vague. And when looking into theory books about emotions, answers look similar. An emotion is a complex interplay of subjective and objective factors mediated by neural and humoral systems. What is that supposed to mean? That could be anything. This sounds like a salad of words and not like a precise definition. Other theories evaluate emotions like they are positive or negative, which is not only wrong. This belief promotes unhealthy behaviors that can get pathological. Then again, other theories try to keep it as simple as possible. For example, Paul Eckman assumes the central role of emotions are social signals. Anger signals get out of my way, or fear signals help me. And although a facial expression of an emotion often is a helpful signal, it fails to understand the central role emotions play in the human psyche. In this video, you learn the boring but not so obvious facts about emotions that nobody else is telling. An emotion is something super functional and does not appear by coincidence. In everyday life, we experience emotions often in the context of problems. Yet, although problems and emotions typically appear together, emotions are more connected to a personal need. To be precise, an emotion is triggered when a problem is blocking access to a personal need. And the emotion itself is the messenger, making sure we're absolutely aware of that. So emotions are the messengers between our unconscious need and our consciousness, where our consciousness then is responsible for solving the problem. Emotions are like an assignment to an urgent mission. And since an emotion consists of 3 different components in our experience, it informs us with 3 different pieces of information about our mission: the urgency, the goal, and the progress we're doing. These 3 information provide us with the necessary details to complete our mission. We always have many different problems blocking somehow, to some degree, our needs. Therefore, it is necessary to differentiate what need is important and what blockade has to be removed first. And this part is exactly about that. It shifts our focus on the problems deemed urgent. This urgency is conveyed to us through the experience of an inner tension. Think about the sports term, "he's getting into your head." The moment when you lose your coolness is symbolic of the feeling of tension. The more tension, the more focus and resources we allocate to remove the problem. This tension can grow to such levels that it surpasses a threshold where we lose our composure and act similar to an animal on instinct. And while for some this threshold is quite high, for others this threshold is achieved rather quickly. However, if we solve the problem, the tension vanishes and is replaced with a positive feeling of relief in order to inform us that the mission is completed and we are now again free to do as we please. So tension is that thing that shifts our focus to the lion entering a room, representing the urgency of the blocked need and the problem at hand. Often only this part is considered when talking about emotions like fear, anger, or grief. But they only make a statement about the fitting strategy, how to react, solve the problem, and satisfy our need. For example, anger uses the strategy of intimidation to ensure the need of physical integrity. Disgust uses the strategy of getting distance to an object to ensure our hygiene. And here is where the theory of Paul Eckman fits in, where facial expressions have their role to play. Facial expressions can help solve the problem and are part of a good strategy. An angry face can help intimidate others, and a sad face may increase the chance for getting support. However, for some emotions it is valuable to conceal the emotion, as in the example of shame or guilt. So facial expressions can make emotions more effective in social situations, yet they say little about the central role emotions play in the human psyche. So the second part of an emotion is giving us suggestions on how to solve the problem. Emotions are focusing on solving the problem and don't mention the underlying blocked need at all. Yet taking a step back and tracking the emotion to the underlying need can be very productive. It broadens the possibilities on how to fulfill the need in this situation in the most effective way. Solving the problem and satisfying the need feels rewarding and serves as a big motivator. However, solving the problem often involves many consecutive steps. So small steps bringing us closer to the solution need to feel rewarding as well for us to repeat them and keep going. And this last part of an emotion is all about incentives and rewarding and punishing all the right things in between the start line and the finish line. This part of an emotion is experienced through the pleasant feeling of joy in case of successful behavior, and the unpleasant and punishing feeling of frustration in case of unsuccessful behavior. So unlike often believed, joy is not a unique emotion, but part of any emotion and plays the role of reinforcing successful behavior. We always experience it when we're making progress and moving closer to our need to the solution. On the other hand, frustration tells us that our previous strategy and behavior was not successful, and it does so through the punishing experience accompanied by it, making sure we don't use it again. And this cycle can happen many times in the course of an emotion. So looking at this graph, it shows why there's this common misconception about positive and negative emotions. Tension and frustration feels, as the word implies, uncomfortable, while relief and joy have a positive touch. However, positive and negative has nothing to do with the quality of an emotion like anger or sadness, but is an integral part of any emotion and says something about how well we're coping with the problem at hand. Emotions are signals about a blocked need, informing us about urgency, suggesting strategy, and indicating progress. And therefore, emotional competence could be defined as a differentiated perception and reaction to these signals.